We had a wonderful, like, and at an hour and a half, I was like, well, I'm going to go. And then 30 minutes later, we stood up.
Yeah, we were like, so I've got to go, we've got to go. And then we just kept.
It kept almost going, which was fine.
Can I ask you questions too? Is this a normal conversation?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
I don't know how normal it is between the two of us, but I think that it'll be all right. I think we've started. To the thousands of people here in person and the 3 people online, hello. My name is Jonathan. This is our Dreams to Reality conversation. We're at the Lead Center, but we're going to jump right in. Aileen Bennett is kind enough to be here, and I'm really excited to talk to you again. We talked for a long time, like we were saying.
I feel like we're old friends now.
And I loved leaving the conversation feeling like
you loved leaving the conversation,
which is that I'm just going to stop there. I think it's a great way to start a conversation. I'm really looking forward to leaving.
I'm looking forward to this being overdue.
Feeling like how do I not know you already? And I just love having those opportunities.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway. Like, how did we not already know each other?
It was a beautiful thing. You wanted to ask a question though, because you get to ask the questions now, I guess. What do you want to know?
Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do this?
Yes, why do you do this?
Because I love people, and I think that their dreams matter. And I think that if we can play a role in helping people's dreams come true and helping them change the world, even if their world is just their home, then it's all worth it. And that's kind of what we're supposed to do.
What's your dream?
To help
I've taken over this interview now.
To help other people's dreams come true. And
is it really? If the slate was clean today and you could start again and do anything, what would you do?
I would be doing this. I think I would have tried to do this sooner if I could start over again. Not that I ran summer camps for a long time, and I think that so much of what I understand about culture and love and care and community comes from that. So it all would have been necessary. But
have you made any of the games you played at summer camps into business exercises?
I thought you were going to say drinking games. Because I would have said yes.
It's
absolutely into business exercises. I spent the weekend with a bunch of entrepreneurship students, all in the #1 entrepreneurship program in the country, and all we really did for the first 4 hours was play camp games, so that they could get to the point that they could have the kind of conversations that they needed to have, to start off with. But I think that, this is where working in entrepreneurship, especially with other people, and about their ideas and about their what they hope and what they want to do, and helping them figure out what's possible for their life. And I think that's the thing that I enjoy doing.
If even during this conversation someone knocks on the door and says, I've been told to come here, what's the first thing you would tell them about being an entrepreneur?
The first thing I would tell them is that I care more about you than I care about your idea. And so let's figure out why this idea has something to do with what you want to do with your life. And then we would talk about, okay, so is this the hobby? What do you want to do with it? Or do you want to do this no matter what? What do you need? And I guess that's why we would spend so much time on their life, because what do they need this business to be? Do they need this business to be like everything? Like it needs to provide how much money, or is this, this is a side thing. I have a full-time thing. It gives me health insurance and benefits, and this is just something that I do because I have a passion. If it builds up and takes over, that's one thing, but I don't need it to be something. What do you need it to be? You have kids, you have a family, you have other people counting on you. All those other things would come into mind. But then we would talk about, at the end of the day, every business exists to solve a problem. So do you understand the problem that you're trying to solve? Like, what is the problem? The more you understand the problem, the more you understand the pain, the more likely you are to be able to do something about it. Yeah.
And anyone can call and say, hey, can we have a meeting?
You can call, you can come in, you can send me an email, you can...
See, if you've got I know this isn't meant to be an ad for them, but if you have an idea, make contact somehow. So you can call, you can attend something like this. There's going to be a conversation with everyone in the room at some point. And this is your first point of call to say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. And the least they will do is give you things to think about or connect you with the right person for the next step in your journey.
And that's the beauty of now, as this has turned into a plug center, is that when the Lead Center was created, it was find a gap, right? Find a gap. And we're fortunate to have Lita and Opportunity Machine and One Acadian and all these groups that do such a good job about job creation and helping people grow their business and helping. But we found this great lane that's huge on what if I just have an idea? What if I'm kind of hustling and doing this thing on the side and I'd like to make it bigger, but I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm not trying to grow it to 100 employees. I'm not trying to buy a building. I just need to run my stuff more efficiently.
I think that's so important for people to know, because there are so many people with side hustles. We used to call them hobbies. Mm-hmm. Now we call them hustles. But who don't think that they should come to places like this, or they're not a tech startup, so they think nobody's interested. But all of those people that are doing even like creative things on the side, they can come to you and you will help them in whatever way they need to be helped.
And sometimes it's
I think that's so vital, because creative arty people don't walk through your door.
Yeah,
they might have a stall of artwork. They might just be trying to sell their stuff in stores. They might want to know about retail markup. They can still come here and find out things.
It's the space, the creative space, and the creative entrepreneurship space is maybe what I'm most excited about. Because you're right. I mean, these are, if you look at what entrepreneurship looks like from a mindset standpoint, you're solving a problem. You're being critical, you're critical thinking, you're obviously creative. And then one of the biggest ones is, how do you view failure? And for me, artists understand failure better than almost anyone else.
You said this the other day in our coffee conversation, and I'd never heard anyone say that before. And I've been thinking about it. He said that artists are so used to failure because we try things all the time. And number one, I'd never thought of that as failure. I just thought of it as experimentation. So I went home feeling like a complete failure. But also,
you were told you were a great artist.
Yeah, but you were like, that's what artists do. They go, can I do this? No, let me try this. Let me try this. Let me do this. And I'd never heard anyone say that. And I said, I think a lot of my friends happen to be creative people. I don't know how that happens. But they don't think like, oh, I'm just selling my art, or I'm just making this, or I've got an Etsy store. And they think that places like this aren't for them.
Absolutely. And they want to maybe be more, they want to make more money, they want to be more successful or more efficient or whatever it is, but then they don't know what to do. And then sometimes they can go to a workshop, like if they even, have the guts to go to it, and 5 minutes in, not uncommon, 5 minutes in, the conversation's over their head. And if they had any doubt that they were in the wrong place, it's now been fulfilled. That yes, you are in the wrong place. Like this isn't for you. This is for business folk. This is for whatever. And for artists, in any space, visual, or we got to talk to Leah Porter, and whenever I think about that sort of space, when you're auditioning for roles and you're one of 40 auditioning, there's only one spot. Like, there are 39 people who went in going, I might fail, but it's just, they just see it as part of the process. It's like, hey, I'm gonna have to audition 50 times to get one.
Yeah, because the people picking you have already got something in mind that you don't know. It's nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
It's just the picture they have in their mind and fitting that in. So yeah, I guess, I was always, I could never do that because of the rejection.
Yeah.
But then I guess, as you, like what I call experimentation and finding the right fit, are those things. I just had never called them failure before, but now I do. No.
Well, so then to make you feel a lot better then, is that we differentiate though between little f failure and big F failure. Because little f failure is that thing didn't work. Big F failure is that I was the problem. And so artists, I think, do a really good job of removing big F failure from the equation.
But we think we are our work.
Yeah.
And I used to think
that's a great point.
If my business failed, then I'd failed. And I had to go, you are not your business. And that took me a year of talking to myself. No, of course I am my business. I work for myself. People are buying a bit of me, even if it's my art, if it's my illustration, if it's my speaking, definitely they're buying a bit of me.
Absolutely.
And so I had them so intertwined that I was my business and I was that. And it's like, no, if your business fails, it does not make you a failure. But it literally took me a year of talking to myself to realize, no, they are different. because you're not buying me. You don't get to take me home. You're just buying some work usually.
Yeah.
And so, but it took me a long while. And I think a lot of artists have that. No, it's like my heart's on this painting, or I put my soul into this, and we are so intrinsically pushed into our work, especially artists that maybe just paint what they want to paint, not for a client. You feel like that's your soul there. And so separating yourself from business decisions. And artists like, oh no, I don't want to be a business person. I don't want this to be about money. Yeah. And it's that whole poor starving artist.
Absolutely. Which we have to get rid of.
I don't want to be a starving artist.
There's 100 things that I think about when you talk about that. There's just from a mindset of just, okay, well, how do I view, because you're like, if I just paint for myself, if I'm just painting for myself, then there's a part of me that needs to filter, understand, come to peace with, if I'm doing this for me, then I can't be mad if no one else wants it because I didn't do it for them. Now, if I want to start doing it for them, then that's different. And so kind of, can you draw that line of understanding that if I want to exist as an artist, meaning eat and live, exist, then there's an element of my art that has to be a business. And so I think step one is come to peace with it.
Because we call that selling out.
Absolutely.
In the creative world.
Listen, and what I love about both talking about creative entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in general is that it reflects life from the standpoint of it feels like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, because I'm going to tell you about your business that you are your business. You really are. It's you that makes your business different than other people's businesses. It's you that, then at the same time, I'm going to tell you, but if it doesn't work, you're not your business. like it was a different thing. And we'll constantly say that you should be doing this, but also this. But that's also life, right? I mean, like, life is great.
I would say people can hold and believe two opposite opinions at the same
100%.
time. We are way more complex in our thinking than we put on Facebook, than we, everything's kind of a battle. And I have this battle, and like art's only one of my things I do, but I have this battle that I don't want to do the kind of art that everybody likes.
Yeah.
Why is nobody buying my art? And I go round and round.
Yeah.
And if everyone says, oh my God, that's so pretty, I'm like, oh no, I've failed, I've sold out, I'm doing commercial stuff. So it's that continual battle of like the stuff I really want to do. Like I drew this English biscuit, not like a biscuit.
Which is not a biscuit, of course.
But it's also not a cookie. But I do a thing called a custard cream.
Okay.
And like it's one of my hyper realistic drawings. And then realized no one in 500 miles, unless they're English, know what a custard cream is. So I do the Oreo equivalent, but it's like the things that are really in my heart, the right audience isn't in my brand yet for that. Yeah. But it's like that dilemma of like, do you just do what you want to do and hope the world catches up?
Yeah.
Or do you? And luckily that's why most creative people, including myself, we do lots of different things. Mm-hmm. One, because I like it because the stuff I learn in one area gets taken over to a different area and makes me more creative all around. So it's kind of, and also it stops me getting bored in one thing, stops me feeling like I'm just this. Because I do this for the perceived freedom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I say perceived freedom. It's like, oh, I love the freedom, I can work from anywhere. Really, I just have, at the moment, probably 6 or 7 bosses.
Yeah, exactly. It's perceived freedom.
It's perceived freedom
at all.
They don't know if I'm doing my work at 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. as long as the deadlines are hit, but it is a perceived freedom. In theory, I can get on a plane this afternoon and work from New York. Mm-hmm. In reality, I have to rely on hotel room internet and whether my Zoom's going to be seamless. And I still have to sit in that hotel and finish my work, whether I'm in wherever I am. So it's a perceived freedom, but it's definitely the thing that made me do what I do.
There's an aspect of the entrepreneurship, as you were talking about all of that, that people also find is, what are they chasing? Like, do they, because I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's been really successful, and he's sort of stepping back to spend more time with family. They have their first kid, like that, and I was talking, and I was asking him, I was like, I'm curious to watch this play out, because you've been doing this thing for 15 years, 20 years now, and it's cute how you think you're just going to step away, and like, because the itch is going to come. And what are you going to do at that point? And you replace it with other stuff to a point. And that's where you see those serial entrepreneurs that they start something, and as soon as it's running on its own, the fun of it is gone. Well, then they go and they go do something else, which is perfectly fine, but it's understanding that about yourself.
It's also, knowing where your skills, often the person to start a company doesn't have the same qualities as the person to run the company. They're different people, and everyone thinks, oh no, I'm going to this in my baby. And then you're like, oh no, all the skills I had are for this. Mm-hmm. And also it's nice to hear
I had 3 babies. That's why we had 3 kids. Cause I was like, once the first one, it was not a baby. I was like, okay, well, this is done.
Next, yeah. Same.
We need another baby this one.
But I remember one of my friends talking to me recently, and he'd amazing entrepreneur, done lots of things. And at the time, like, let's say 5-10 years ago, he said, I did all of these studies, all the, the SWOT analysis and all the things. And he said, no one ever asked me about my life. And he was like, I want to spend more time with my kids. No one talked about that. And I think now the conversation's changed and people do talk about your whole life. But it used to be like, oh, it's business here and life here. And it's one of my favorite things. I just go, this is your life. This isn't just your business. You
can't separate this and this. I mean, and the best.
Oh my God, this is our lives right now.
The best people, the best companies, the best cultures understand that. Understand that, hey, if you and I both work for a company and you go home and you go for a walk around the block and you eat a really nice meal and you go to bed at a decent hour, and then I go home and I have 4 slices of pizza and 6 beers, like, we both go to work the next day. You go to work way better than I. And one day might not matter, but if that becomes a cycle, you can't remove who you are at work with who you are at home, because they bleed over. Because if the number one cause of workplace accidents is stress, and the number one cause of stress is financial problems. So if you are struggling financially at home, you might have more difficulty at work. And so the best companies and organizations understand that, and they go, oh, maybe we should implement financial literacy for our
equally,
workers. Maybe we should care about
struggling
your mental
at
health.
work,
we should care about
you might be more unhappy at home.
Absolutely.
And that's just as important that way round. And I think, this is our lives, and especially people that are entrepreneurs are trying to build a lifestyle they want. And it's not often we're sold like, find your passion and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right up until taxes are due.
Yeah. Find your passion and you will work a lot more hours. You will be up at 4 a.m. You will be trying to fit it in between other things. Yeah. Going, wait, this is my life now. I'm working a lot more. I'm having to do bits I don't like, because there are always bits you don't like.
Yeah.
And how, like, my judge is, are you enthusiastic about this enough that you'll do the bits you don't like? Because passion doesn't last. Curiosity lasts. And it's like, is this a world I'm curious about? Do I always want to learn more and more and more and more? And that's the thing, like, you might decide, right, I want to make knitted penguins, and that's my life, because I made a knitted penguin and I love it. And now I've made 30 knitted penguins, and TikTok loves me because I'm the knitted penguin lady, and I love this. And then one day when you're knitting your 739th knitted penguin, you're over it. And it's like, now what do? I'm the knitted penguin lady. And you don't know, and it's like you're basically working in a factory at that point.
Yeah, you've created a job.
Yes.
And entrepreneurs don't always try to create jobs. They try to create companies, they try to create something that's solving a problem. But so many do. All I did was make a job for myself. Well, I didn't want a job. And so now what do you do now?
Yeah.
We're gonna go somewhere else now. So you wrote this book, and it's a little book about fire. So what is fire? And
we're going back to caveman days. Yeah. Fire.
Listen, if you want to talk about caveman days, this is like super exciting. Because here's the deal.
Why it was difficult when we were at coffee? We're both so enthusiastic and curious about everything in the world that we couldn't
Fire is, so one of the parts of whenever I work with students, especially when we go on retreats and things like that, is that we always sit around the fire at nighttime, because I think it is the most innate at our core. It's what we do, because if you exist now, you only exist now because your ancestors' could create fire. If you couldn't create fire, you died. Fire was safety, fire was protection, fire was how we cooked food, fire was everything. And at the end of the day, what did we do? We sat around the fire, we told stories. And that's how stories got passed down, and that's how you know about these things, and that's how it all stemmed from this. So at our cores, we were made to sit around. Now, fire turned into coffee tables and turned into other things, And when are we happiest? We're around the family table at holidays, But fire is, fire is that essence of.
He hasn't read the book yet. He hasn't even opened the book.
I haven't looked at the book.
He doesn't know what the book's about.
I hope it's about all that. But we are. But we're all
it's
trying
more
to get
about
close,
the metaphorical fire that's inside you.
I assumed that it was probably that.
Yes. Although next book's about actual fire.
Exactly.
It's about that little flame that's within you. And the days it's big and the days it's small, the days it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it, I hate saying this, but it's the real story. It feels so emotional. It feels like one of those stories. I was going through cancer and I was going through chemo and my version is, and everyone's version of cancer is different. I didn't fight cancer, I napped through it. Because we don't say we're fighting a broken leg. It's amazing branding that we suddenly become like, heroes the moment we have something like that. It wasn't my experience. But I was most worried, especially with the chemo, about it taking away my acerbic wit. That like it hasn't. But I was most worried.
I thought you were waiting for confirmation. That was my fault. I was like, oh shit, she wants me to say something.
Oh shit, she thinks
no,
you're still with
you are doing
wonderful. No. Oh no. So I was most worried about losing that. I was most worried about my brain. Yeah. But one day, and I don't remember writing this, but I would write every now and then because I'd finished Netflix. It's when I fell in love with doing illustration and changed my career. But it was just, I think it was a note to myself saying, don't worry, your flame won't go away. It will come back. And the book's very much about that. I say this, I know we counted how many words, 200 and something words. I know, yeah, but definitely under 300, maybe under 250 words in the whole book. Yeah. Mainly pictures. But it's a little book. It's that little reminder, like, your flame cannot go away. It doesn't die. It's always there. Whatever happens, it's always there, ready to reignite, and you feel like you again. It can't disappear.
Do you have memories of whenever you first sort of like, when it first struck, when it first lit, when it first, are there things where you sort of started to realize that you had this fire?
Aren't you born with it?
Well, I think so, but like I think we all.
I think
your goal is to find it.
Yes, I think it's there. Your goal is to feed it the right fuel, I guess.
Feed it. That's good.
I think if you'd met me when I was 3 or 4 years old and asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I would have said either graphic designer or commercial artist, same thing. And if you'd have said, "Oh, you want to be an artist?" I'd have gone, "No, they're different." And I think that was feeding my flame. And then at school, when I was told, like, the quote from the careers officer, and we didn't have like a full-time careers officer or a whatever, the guidance counselor. Gotcha. We don't have those in English schools, but once a year, the careers officer would come into school and you'd have like 10 minutes with him. And I told him I wanted to be a graphic designer, and he said, people from towns like this don't get jobs like that. And told me I was a very, very clever girl and I should work in a bank. But that just fed my flame. You should have seen me leaving that. And at the time, I'm old now, but at the time, girls, like in the English school system, we narrowed down our subjects every few years towards what we want to do with our lives. And at a certain time, you have to pick like, an English, a math, a science. And I did not want to pick a science. I wanted to pick technical drawing because that would help my career much more. And girls did not do technical drawing. So I found a graphic designer. I dragged him to the school. I met with the headmaster, which I showed up with my own tea bags at the headmaster's office so he could make me a cup of tea.
There you go, of course.
So I was fairly feisty, and I fought for and got to do technical drawing. Now slightly obsessed with physics, wish I'd kind of done that too. But I knew what I wanted to do, and so I could find the paths to fight for that. And ironically now I'm giving up graphic design and more of an artist, which 3-year-old me hates. Yeah.
3-year-old you's looking, you sold out.
You sold out.
How dare you?
They were all
We had it all figured out.
Yeah.
You should have been a banker. No. So whenever you talk about fire, what happens when it goes out?
It doesn't go out. There's some bits in the rain.
How do you keep it going? And maybe
you don't have to keep it going. I think that was the surprise. So there's some pages in the book that says sometimes it rains, it pours, it drizzles for days, and the fire is still there. And it's like you don't know it. And there's another, I can't quote my own book. There's another bit about sometimes it feels like the fire's gone because the people with the fire inside spend time doing things that doesn't keep them warm but doesn't burn or something. We avoid it. We're watching TV. We're dull in that because that fire is quite scary sometimes. There's a whole thing about sometimes it's overwhelming. Maybe that's how forest fires start. It's sometimes it feels so much like if we do this, it's kind of, I guess it's like taking a match. If we light this flame, that's it. This like once we've lit that, it's going to get bigger and it's going to burn, and our lives are that. So I'll just watch Netflix tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll put it off because we know once we've done that one movement that there's no going back from it. And the fear around that, it's like, am I going to put this out there? Am I going to, accept this thing?
I love that idea because I think that we all have, if you're lucky, you have several of those moments in your life where you have a decision where you know you can't undo this. Once I can't put the match back in the box.
Well, you can, but
but that decision, and sometimes we make these decisions and we don't think about them. I love whenever I know that what I'm about to do changes everything, because there's a power in that. That is, but it's where you have to be courageous, you have to be audacious, you have to be passionate, you have to be a little dangerous. You got to be a little risky. You got to be and you have to be super vulnerable.
I always say you only have to be brave for 60 seconds at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's sending an email, and there are still emails I send, and then I run away.
Absolutely.
And go and have a cup of tea. It's completely ridiculous. No one can see me, but you're just like, no, and we'll wait for the reply, and then you just leave, and then you creep back to your computer or your phone, and it's like it clicks through. It's those saying yes, it's saying no, but it's that 60 seconds. You don't have to be brave all day. Being brave all day is really hard. But being brave and saying, yes, I'll do that. Or putting something, like even sharing, especially my personal work, still is much scarier than people think it is. I will put it up on Facebook and I will run away for a while and not look at that. Because I don't want to be dependent on the reactions. Because otherwise we sit there and there's another thing and then we go, I'll go and do my next job when I've got 50 likes, 100 likes, and we play that game, and that's not your value. And I think especially in the weird world we live in, we think that. And I saw something the other day and said, artist, you only got 20 likes, and you think that's a failure? Imagine 20 people in the room cheering for you.
Yeah,
that's kind of
how
cool.
That would feel. Yeah,
but we're dependent on these likes, we're dependent on the algorithm, and that's the same as, I guess, selling out. Do we play to the algorithm? Do we do our own thing and eventually get noticed for doing the right thing? I used to write a blog, and my theory was if you just write good blog content, then eventually it will be found. And I still live in that world. Doesn't mean ignore keywords. It doesn't mean don't understand the algorithm, but be true to yourself, because when it is found, all that other content will boost your brand. Yeah. Whereas if you're just playing to the algorithm, it's just pointless drivel. Like I can get AI to write my blog post.
It's little sparks as opposed to something big, and you're preparing for whenever it does get found, whenever it does. It's do you want to be wide or you want to be deep? If you want to be wide, play to the algorithms and make sure, and you'll get these little blips.
Did he just call me fat?
As opposed to, no, I think I said deep. I don't know. I say you were not wide.
What?
Because you're writing such good stuff.
And the truth is, you want to be wide and deep, and that's the issue. It's like, do you want it and sometimes it's hard, and it's all about you. So there are some days that you look at social media and you're like, wow, everyone's out there doing brilliant stuff. Let me join in. My friends are all doing beautiful things. I live in this amazing creative world. And another day you can look at exactly the same kind of content and go, oh, the ideas are gone. I'm terrible. I can't compete. They're already so far ahead of me, or they already know the algorithm, or they were found, or Instagram likes them more. And it's exactly the same stuff. It's just your reaction that's different.
Absolutely.
And that's called being human.
Yeah.
And they're the days when, okay, I need a break. Go and walk around and getting outside. Go outside.
Yeah.
Go for a walk. Drink water. Do all the things that you know you should do, and be kind to yourself. And then, because it's your attitude that needs to change. All the ideas haven't been used up.
Yeah.
Your stuff is just as valid. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm painting this, and this is something, and they're like, they did it. And you're like, no, I can't possibly ever paint a cup of tea again because somebody painted a cup of tea once. And you go through that. Yeah.
100 years ago, someone painted a cup.
Somebody
Well, all the tea's been painted. We got to move on to
I'm looking
something
at
else.
paintings of tea, and there are millions of them out there, and nobody needs this. I'm not even painting a cup of tea.
Yeah.
But it's that, and I like to vary my life enough because I get to illustrate books, I get to write, I get to speak, and then I get to do my own stuff, and everything mixes. So if I'm having a bad day, the reason I started doing realism is it's a meditative thing for me. Like a lot of the time I'm doing children's books or other books, and I'm illustrating them, and I have someone saying, right, I want them, that door's going to burst open and the child's running into the room and it's full of this. And I have to create that whole picture from whatever perspective I think. And that's a lot. And then I go, and at the moment I'm drawing a giant blue crawfish and a blue crab. Now this yay big. And I get to go, oh, yes, look, there's a shadow here. And it's really nice, and it's small, and it's just me, and I have bare feet, and I have my music on, and I dance while I draw. It probably slows down my drawing, and I'm not a great dancer, but and that gets me back into going, okay, now, what does a child look like if I'm looking from above into, so I have to create all of those things. So if you go to my studio, there are two distinct halves. There's an analog half and a digital half. And one half is my computer, and it's very clean, and that's the background you see if you talk to me on Zoom. And the other half is art and paints and pencils, and is not messy, but artist messy. It's like, so they're very different, and that's kind of very much, I don't think people realize they're walking into my brain. They're very like that. I love business. That's why I've never quite away from it. I love creativity, and where the two meet is my happy place.
Absolutely. Yeah, the strategy is just as fun. I mean, the strategic aspect of business and the intentionality, and I think that's why it's so fun to work with people on their ideas, is because I love to jump in and go, let's find not the loophole, but the gap and the thing that isn't done, and where you can really fill the need, and how and that strategy can be just as creative as an art, because it is an art.
You come back to the knitting penguins. You're like, what if you do a new series of penguins, the Christmas penguins, but you make them and you really have fun with them, and then there's a limited edition drop in 2 months' time.
Absolutely.
Because that takes away the penguin factory aspect of it. And so it's like there's a lot of ways to change what you do, and go, right, what bits of this do you enjoy? It's why I moved to illustration. When I was sick, I finished Netflix. There's 3 plugs for Netflix so far. I don't even, and there are other streaming services
Netflix,
available.
we're looking for a sponsor.
Yes,
if you would like to be a part of what we're doing here, we would love to have you here.
But so I had my iPad and I started drawing. But like when you're a kid, and I realized it's something grown-ups never do. I started drawing, but I didn't know what I was drawing. Like we literally never do that. I know like adults color now, but I drew like when I was 10. Like, I don't know what this picture's going to be. And it was the only thing that made the time go poof. I started drawing, and 3 hours had gone. And I was like, I like this. And so I started drawing more, and then I started telling people that's what I did. And that's a huge, people want to know. I've changed my career, or not changed my career. So many times I'm like, I do this, no, I do this, no, I do this. And it takes me longer to adjust to the new title than it does everybody else.
When did you decide to start telling people? Like do you remember the moment? Sorry, to get to that question I want to go back to this idea of these kind of vulnerable moments whenever we decide to do something, because vulnerability gets mislabeled as like trauma dumping. Like, let me tell you, the
vulnerability is cool now, though, isn't it?
It's like, let me
Since
tell you,
Brene wrote about it, everyone's like, I'm so vulnerable.
But if you look, even whenever she's talking about it, it's not. Let me tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. It's not, because that's already happened. Vulnerability is whenever you are willing to talk about something that has not happened, because you don't know what's on the other side.
I like that. Vulnerability is when you're willing to face or talk about something that hasn't happened yet.
Because if it's already happened, it's already happened. Like there's an emotion attached to it, but I've already felt it.
Are you English?
I should be.
I feel like that's like, yeah, okay, so that happened. Okay, next.
That happened. You should be over it now. We should move on to something else. But true vulnerability is talking about your dreams and your hopes and your life and where you want to be. And because it hasn't happened yet, and you might ask me about it later. And so it becomes scarier. Because if I tell you, listen, my dream is to, go and write a children's book, and you see me in a month and you say, how's that children's book coming along? And I have to go, oh yeah, I didn't work on that. Like if I tell you about something in the past and you ask me about it later, who cares? It's already happened. Like we can talk about it as much as we want. It only becomes vulnerable. And so that's why I ask about when you decided to say, hey, I'm selling art now. And what that was, and was there, and maybe there wasn't a thought. Because
I think there was an overlap where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to do illustration. Oh, by the way, I can't draw. And I would tell everyone I couldn't draw. And then eventually I had to go, wait, no, you actually can. Like you've proved it to everyone, you proved it to yourself. But that was still in my head. But I think I have a weird technique. And I tell people, and I'm sure they don't believe me because I'm very pragmatic, I'm very English, I'm very we have, one of my best friends is sitting in the room, and I'm sure they have like a bet on how they're going to make me cry. Because like a few glasses of wine and emotions, and I'm like still. So I think there's a running target, like who can make her cry first? Not meanly, but just like let's break her down. So I'm very pragmatic, I'm very English, but I daydream deliberately every single day. Normally, the habit stacking thing, while you're doing one thing you do, whether you're brushing your teeth or whatever it is you do every day, hopefully it's that, you can attach that to a daydream. I'm really into how your mind works and all of that stuff. And so I deliberately daydream. Sometimes I write it out, what I want the future to look like. And I think not enough people do it because it happens so quickly and it's kind of magical. I literally can be like, I imagine myself answering a call from someone to say yes to my ideal project. It's incredibly how fast that happens, or how you just, and it's just like 10 minutes a day imagining that. And also if I get drained during the day, I'll often, if I go for a walk, that's what I'll think about. And it doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to know everything. It can be slightly different every day. But I'm like, I always say, in 6 months, I'm going to write an article about this, and it's what's happening now, and so I think daydreaming is essential. Manifestation, abundance, like whatever you call it. Imagine what you like, because thoughts are things. And the more you know that your bigger picture, it takes away all those little things. Oh, nobody liked my picture, but I'm building towards this.
Yeah.
And so it kind of changes everything. And I always think, look back at your life from 5 years' time. What do you want to be doing now to get where you want to be then? And people go, I don't know. You don't have to know. You just imagining feeling great, or that phone call you want from someone, or whatever it is. And I spend a lot of time deliberately imagining, daydreaming about the future.
Absolutely. And recording it. And again, this is where then you sprinkle in the business strategy.
Yeah.
When you record it, you now have something to look back and go, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. Because when you do get distracted, when you do, you go for a walk and you come back and maybe it's like, well, what do I do now? Like, what's the first thing? Hey, this is a great time to pull the list out of where do I want to be? I want to have written this article in 6 months. Have I started the article yet? No. All right, well, then I should spend the next 20 minutes doing it. But having that gives you a list, a to-do list.
I was thinking of it as my secret plan.
It's like a long-term to-do list. Absolutely. Yeah,
it's my big picture. And it can be like, if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is write it down. Just spend 5 minutes writing down, it's a beautiful day and I live in a high rise in New York City, and today I'm getting a private plane. Whatever it is you want. It doesn't have to be those things. It might be, I wake up and the birds are singing and no one calls me until 10 o'clock. Whatever it is. And each day, but write it down before you get into the craziness of checking your emails and all of that. And I know everyone says, have that space in the morning before you dive in. And we all nod and we go, yeah, I won't check my emails first thing. But it really, really matters, because you remember, this is about your life. Otherwise we're like, oh, right, deadlines, got to do this, and we have to-do lists. And I don't want to be the person that says, you should have a to-be list. But it is kind of that. It's
but
like,
you should.
This is your life. But this is your life. And I don't know how to explain it better than that. And I always say, what if it is a dress rehearsal? It was like, life is not a rehearsal. What if it is? Then you could let yourself try on different costumes and make mistakes and learn different lines. What if this is all a rehearsal? It's, like, then we get redos. You get
Absolutely.
to, everything's not vital. And I think, like, I know that if a client says, and I have this thing, and I've been doing this for years, I only take on jobs that sound really fun. What I don't know is every job to me sounds really fun at the beginning. But that's what I'm driven by. And it sounded, when I first realized it about myself, fun and freedom, and it sounds so cokey and so not businessy, but they're the things that drive me. Like, I will probably say yes to a book from my publisher if I haven't done that kind of thing before. Like, I'm drawing one at the moment where animals are the main characters. And I'm like, never done that. And that's who I am. I'm curious about everything. There's an illustration coming out later today. That's part of my everyday curious thing, because I go down these rabbit holes. Like, I need to know more about that. I need to find out about this. And so then I will write an illustrated thing about it, and I will draw pictures about it, whether it's like learning about armadillos, who are the most fascinating creatures
They really
on
are.
Earth.
Listen.
Or
Let me
bananas.
introduce you to the possum. If you like the armadillo, let me offer the possum to you.
Yeah, see, we did the whole watermelon one, but it's great because I get to then find out the history and why they're called Sugartown and if they're really from there. And then I also give a plug to the best watermelons you can find this side of, wherever. The world, yeah. But I get to, that's like how my mind works. I'm constantly curious. My only superpower is being curious.
So that's always been there.
Yeah. I've always been a geek.
Did you get in trouble at all being curious at some point? Maybe asking too many questions. Maybe just, I don't know, not did you get in trouble, but what's that been like? I mean, being curious.
Constantly, because
it doesn't sound like.
Females are meant to be quiet and demure and not particularly that. And you're always scared of being called loud or, and enthusiasm isn't cool. Like, I went to art college. I was one of the cool kids. And then I'm like, let's do this. And someone recently hadn't met me at the time said, you're a Labrador, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, oh, yeah, I am. It's like nothing I can do about it. I'm a geek. I like to know stuff. I like quiz shows. Mm-hmm. My poor husband, I'm like, let's watch this quiz show. And so, yeah, I've always wanted, but I think the trouble I get in is what I think I should be and what I really am. It's that trouble. It's like, I want to be this because like the world says you should be this. Mm. And then I am the one that goes, so if this happened, should we do this? Or making it really awkward. I'm not great at small talk, but I will sit down with a complete stranger and go, so what's your dream? And, and then getting really enthusiastic about everything. Just because I am extremely curious. Mm-hmm. And I can spend 2 hours of my day learning about some tiny insect for no apparent knowledge. And then I do think that my friends should listen to me talk about this.
What's it, how do you find people like you?
Like attracts like.
Yeah.
You're going to find them. And I think that's one of the main things I've learned too late in life. I've always been a bit of I'm one of those extrovert, introvert people. Love being at home on my own and then love giving a speech in front of 3,000 people. I need both. And so I've always been here, and I came here and I didn't have a job. I didn't have a company to go to, so I didn't really know many people. And I thought I could do it by myself. Mm. And you need your groups of people. I have this amazing group of people. Some of them are in the room. But I have a few of those little groups. I have a group of, I call the boys, the guys who neither of them live in town anymore, but we meet talk on Zoom or Facebook or wherever every month. And it's the people, and I only worked this out a few weeks ago. It's not the people that are there for you during a bad time. If I wrote on Facebook I needed something, there would be 100 people offering.
Absolutely.
It's the people that you can go, this great thing just happened.
Yeah.
They're the people. That's different because like, it's hard for people that are naturally happy for your success and don't think you're showing off or are not jealous
and
because they know that
thrilled that you're happy.
Those
because
people,
they believe that you deserve it.
Correct. Those people, the people where you can text them and go, oh my God, I just had a meeting about this. And number one, they're not going to tell anyone else because that might never happen.
Absolutely.
People might go away and change their mind, but those people that can be genuinely happy for you.
Yeah.
And that you feel okay telling without them going, oh God, she's over here. Yeah. Like those people. Yeah. Because those are the people that will see you through the bad times as well.
Yeah, because they're going to be there for the other stuff. But
they're going to be there for that.
Because like one will be there for this, but this group may not always be there for this.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that. So again, like the students that I just worked with, they're in the #1 entrepreneurship program in the country.
He loves to say that. Would you like to name that entrepreneurship program?
It's at the University of not here, so that's why I'm not going to name them.
But where are they in the country? #1?
They are, yeah. Well, because so my question to them is always the moment you found out that you got in, who did you want to talk to?
Yeah.
Because that's everything, and it's not generally, it's not, maybe it's my friend here, but it's my grandmother who did whatever she could so that my parents could come to the United States from Vietnam, and I just needed to tell, and I couldn't. And this is where you get some great stories of I just wanted to tell her, but the time difference didn't allow me to call her until 4 hours later. So I just had to sit with it. Or I just wanted to reach out to this person because I just needed to, it's in that moment of who do you want to celebrate with? And that's such a different question of who do you want to celebrate with?
It's those people you can text when something brilliant's happened. They're your people. Mm-hmm. And I treasure them, and hopefully they know I treasure them. And there are different little clusters of people that I can do that. And then eventually if something big happens, you put it on Facebook. And especially here, I love the creative community because we all work in the background so much. So one day one of my friends is like, hey, I've just, done this book or whatever. And you're like, you can cheer for them because in 3 months' time, the thing you're working on in secret at home, because especially in illustration and writing, we don't talk about it. We can't talk about it till it's published or about to be published. So so we all get to cheer for each other at different times. And I kind of love that because it gives me the ability to really be happy for them.
Yeah.
And go, this is it. Yeah, this is fantastic. Or, whoa. And some days you're just like, oh God. Yeah, all the good jokes. I wish I'd done that. And sometimes you see this amazing idea and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And then you're like, there's this other, I wish I'd thought of that. And that's the
human part.
Yes, the human part.
The incredibly human part.
And all of those are the same and they're fine and they drive you and they push you. And I don't, job titles are hard. I end up, most of the time I just go, I'm a creative. But then I think it's again, being human, everyone is creative. And I hate when people, I'm not creative, I just do this. No, if you're living a life today, you are creative. And there isn't that barrier. And it doesn't matter if you're creative for 5 minutes a day or you do it for work. You're still just as creative. There isn't a hierarchy in creativity. It just doesn't happen. You're all,
you're just in this, you're in this category, and it's how do you use it throughout the day, and how does it feed your life? Are you living the life that you want, or aspects of it that you want, and there are, it's always interesting, living the life that you want sometimes makes it seem like it should be this selfish thing. But I know I'm fortunate enough to know so many people, and certainly some of the students who are here at UL Lafayette. I mean, they're here and they are up front. I'm the first one in my family to go to college. I'm here to change the trajectory of my family forever. They don't what they end up doing is less important than what they're doing. What they're doing.
I had to battle that because does what I do change the world? I illustrate books, I write books, I give some speeches. No, probably not. But does it change the world in the fact I'm doing what I feel like I'm meant to be doing? But no. I feel like I'm pretty damn sure I'm meant to be doing this. So therefore, if I get to be me, you get to be you, and you get to be you, and you get to be you. And then that's all everybody wants, is to be themselves and to use their skills in their way. And together we make up the world.
Yeah.
Together, my children's book is important because somebody else is reading it to a child, you know, in a school somewhere, and it's making them think differently, and that child goes on to that. So together, we are making a difference.
Absolutely.
And if everyone just got to do what fulfills them and what, you know, makes them happy, then we all get to support each other, and there isn't that insecurity and that jealousy because everyone's living the life they want to live.
Yeah.
And we get to be quirky and odd, and like it's just being human. And the more we get to be ourselves, the less like we play by the rules. We have to know the rules, but like, you know, we get to bend them a lot.
Sure. I mean, quirky, creative people are always in trouble. I mean, like, I was in trouble all the time. I talked too much. Like, I knew it. Like,
I was in trouble for that, but I was also like the person who tried to do everything right. I was that person. I remember once, like, I did my homework and I realized I'd done it on the wrong page of the book. And so I tore out my homework and pretended I hadn't done it. And I got detention. And I had to explain to my mother, and I said, I didn't do my homework. I got detention. She said, you did do your homework. But I'd ripped it out because to me, not doing it perfectly was such an issue that I, and I still remember that and sitting in homework and feeling so ashamed, but I still swore to the teacher I hadn't done it because I'd done it on the wrong page, and that bothered me. So I am like, I still have trouble. Everyone else goes to a store and it's like, they're like in, but they're using the outdoor and they're fine. And I'm still like, it says in, like we should do this. So
this is what the store wants. We have to do what the store wants. I don't want the store to be mad at me.
Yeah. And so I tend to obey rules, and then other people think I don't because of the life I live. Like I don't have a proper job. I don't, you know. But in my head, I'm like this. I want to be good. Yeah. And also I want to be creative. Creative normally wins, but I try to. I'm a rule obeyer.
I'm rule adjacent. It depends on.
I think everyone else looks at my life and thinks I'm rule adjacent.
Yeah.
And I just have to, but I have these rules in my head and I have to compete with my own brain on them because you want to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm curious about your curiosity. Because I wonder this, I love to ask questions. That's why I like to do this. I love to talk to people and ask questions because I want to learn more about them. But I wonder sometimes, because it sounds like you're curious too, and do we use curiosity to hide talking about ourselves? Because it's easier for me to ask you a question than to
Yes
reveal...
and no, but isn't my answer, don't you go, and you immediately make it about, do I do that? Do I do this? So
of course.
I think we use curiosity to learn about ourselves. I don't know. I think sometimes it can be a defense mechanism. Tell me about your dream.
Yeah.
And I am good at that, but also it's everyone's the same, if that makes sense. So
100%.
If I ask
I'm
you
convinced
about,
that there are only 200 people in the world, and then there's just copies of each other. Because constantly I meet someone and I'm like, you put them into a category, not a category, but like, oh, you remind me of this person, which also helps me remember who you are and your passions and what you want to do.
So do you meet other yous?
They're usually shorter.
But
and I'm left-handed, which helps too.
But I think the skill we both have that we probably don't talk about is that ability to connect with people and find that thing. And we went for an hour coffee and we left 2.5 hours later. Because like we're going, oh, we're the same. Because we immediately drilled down to those things that we have in common. Yeah. And I think that's a very human thing. And people complain about, oh, they just talk about the weather or whatever. And every country says that about themselves. But it's because humans like to find agreement. So if you walk into someone and you go, oh God, this fog this morning, it was havoc. And you say, yeah, it was crazy. Okay, we immediately have a connection, and like attracts like, and we call it being alike because that makes us like each other. Like basically you agreed with me, therefore I'm right. Yeah. We like that feeling. But if I come in and go, oh, that fog was crazy, and you go, I know, I love driving in the fog. It's the best feeling because I feel like I'm alone. There's this there's this disconnect. So we try a few times. You go, yeah, but it's nice when it clears up, or it's nice. And when someone's always, no, we literally come away going, we don't like them.
Yeah.
because we are not
because we can't find
alike.
something alike.
We can't find that thing. And so it's fairly easy. We both, the other day, we were both kind of being the person that found the thing in common. And so it was super easy because, we found so many things. And then we came again, we're the same. And then I was smiling because I'm the same as this cool guy, and
I realized that I was a younger British woman, which is also fun.
But it is that then human beings naturally do that. It's literally why we call it liking someone, liking something. If we like the same thing, we like each other. And so that fascinates me. And I can do it deliberately when I need to, the same as you. But also we do it so naturally that it isn't deliberate, if that makes sense. Just because you know about something and how it works doesn't make it fake.
Absolutely. That's such a great way to look at it. I mean, because there are aspects of, and I'll get people from time to time, I try to make it a point to ask more questions. Part of the reason that I started asking more questions was to try to ensure that I wasn't being fake. Because if my default ends up being talk about myself, then asking more questions helps me not talk about myself and seek commonalities and clarities and things like that. And so this idea of it's not fake, it's seeking genuine connection. The connection is genuine, and that's what I want to seek. I just want to seek it with a whole lot of people.
You can't fake genuine. It's the one thing people know. They know when it's real. Like if you turn on the TV, if you're not sure about this, turn on the TV for 20 seconds, turn it off again, or whatever, your streaming service, and you know instantly whether that's someone talking from the heart or someone reading a script. Even the best actors in the world, we know they're acting. Because it's a human connection thing, we just know innately that someone is being real. And so I think even though we both knew we were doing let's find the thing we have in common, it was still a really genuine conversation.
And children are the best at that, at finding. And so both of us worked at a summer camp. And I still do work with some summer camps, and when we hire, we have all these questions, and we have these things about who you are, but really it boils down to one thing: is do you love children? Do you love and care about them? Because that's what they're going to pick up on. And if you don't say the right thing at the right time, they don't mind. If you don't fully understand how to teach them how to play tennis, they're okay. Do you care about them? It's the one thing I can't teach you. I can teach you all these other things. I can teach you how to coach tennis. I can teach you I keep saying tennis because Anne-Marie's here. I saw it.
We keep using examples of the people in the audience.
Our Dutch tennis professional.
Of which there are at least
he's in the room here.
200 people in the room right now?
At least. It's crazy.
At least.
I can't believe that many people fit here. But it's the one thing that I can't teach you, and so therefore it's the thing you need the most. And it's that genuineness. It's I start from a place of care and we go from there. And can we kind of do that?
And the same with older children.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah.
There's not an age where you go, right, that's it. I don't care anymore. Yeah, I think that's genuine. I'm genuinely curious. It's weird being not from here, because there's loads of stuff I want to know.
You're not from here? Just kidding.
Do you know what this means?
I've heard.
Cut. Yeah, and it's weird because that you're slightly different because of that. My background experiences are not the same. I'm pointing at the immigrants in the audience. But so some of our thinking is just slightly. I was in a meeting. They were talking about roly-poly. And we were doing some brainstorming, and they meant the little insect. And I was thinking about a steamed pudding. So our answers to the questions were very, very different.
I would think so.
Because I was like, oh, it's so comforting, and they were like,
all these tiny little insects.
That makes me really fascinated about everyone's experiences and how they come to their thoughts, but mostly their dreams and what they want to do. And what their next step is to get there. Even though I don't work in what you do, it's kind of just my natural default. I want to know about you. Yeah,
and it ends up with, the more you do it, the more, the better you get at asking really fun questions. Like what's your dream, and which leads to so what are you doing today that gets you there, that gets you closer? And how does this, it makes it so much easier to work with students also whenever they're like, well, I don't know what I should do. Like, what do you want to do with your life? Okay, well, whatever you do this summer should move you closer to there, or whatever you do tomorrow,
I would say you don't need to know.
Closer to there.
Your job most of the time is to collect experiences and follow those things that you're curious about. Yeah. And at some points in your life, they all come together and like, oh, that's why I did all these weird things, because I'm doing this now. And then that will change again.
Yeah.
But your job, like most of the jobs, like, especially kids, half the jobs they're going to have haven't been invented yet.
Absolutely.
So it's not like our, grandparents' generation, they're like, I'm going to work in this factory for 40 years and then they're going to give me a watch.
Yeah.
Like, we don't live that lives. You ask kids, everyone wants to be an influencer now and not play basketball like they did 10 years ago. Yeah. But like that, all of those jobs are hard work. So it's a question of finding the right fit. And I'd say, I don't know what to do, what course to do at college. Just pick the thing that interests you most right now, because there will be elements of that add up. Like, I look back at school, and when I got down to picking 3 subjects, which you do at the end of school, I think it's 5 now because they're cleverer now than I was. I chose art, English, and sociology. Okay. And when I look at that decision I made when I was 16, they're probably the things I do now. English, I write, sociology, study of people. And so I look at that and go, whoa, yeah, it all comes back in these loops.
One of my favorite, I was fortunate enough to be at college and take a bunch of courses, because I went, and for a week I was a chemical engineer. And then I realized that this was a terrible decision. And so I spent another semester and 2 semesters taking classes everywhere. And I took a voice class and a drama class and an architecture class and a journalism class, and all those things brought me to business. But really, I was just collecting these things, and I learned more about myself in those little courses than
what was it that made you want to be a chemical engineer?
Because I was good at math and science, and so that sounded like the right thing to do. And whenever I was in high school and told people that I was going to school for chemical engineering, they were impressed. That's what I had to do. It had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. I think it probably would have been fun, and had I stuck with it, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it got the reaction that I wanted. And so that's why I said it. I didn't know who I was or what I was trying to do or become. I was 18. I don't know. And not that there are plenty of 18-year-olds who know exactly what they want to do. And I was fortunate enough to be, from a middle-income family whose parents are still married, and like all these like very fortunate things about my life that allowed me to.
Did you call your parents or go home that night and say, I want to change? Because from what I know about American society, people change their majors a lot. It's like,
yeah, I didn't tell them at all. No, I changed my major, and I bounced around and went to somewhere else, and they were happy that I graduated, and they knew. My mom knew. My dad knew, because they're like, you're not going to stay there. Like, that's not what your passion is. It's not what you enjoy doing. But it's cute that you think that. And so, yeah, they'll take you in those directions. Because somebody we just, whether it's friends or family, or especially like if you have kids and they're doing, there are things where you just let them realize things on their own. As long as it's not dangerous and no one's life in danger, this is going to be a good thing for you to just figure out.
What elements of that chemical, that little young kid who wanted to do chemical engineering, what elements of that are in you today?
I think the pragmatic.
It's my interview again now.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like, damn it, I thought I was in charge. No, I think the problem-solving aspect, the pragmatic part, the logical part, the logic stuff, because engineers don't have feelings. I have a little brother who's an engineer, so I can say that. And so,
see, look at that. We're already on the little brother's side. All of us. Just the words you use, my little brother will,
listen, my little brother is fine. Side. He works at Apple, and he's doing very well, okay? Like,
we like him slightly less now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, let me say some more things. He lives in Boulder. Do you guys like Boulder? I don't know if you do. But it was fun whenever because he's brilliant. He has an engineering degree and his MBA. And then he got promoted because all he had to do, though, before let's relax.
Oh, this is the big brother talking. No, he had it easy. He had it easier than I did.
let's walk before we run, all right? But he was in the group of engineers, so he just had to be the most like personable of engineers. It's not like he had to be super personal. He just had to be personable.
I think that's us looking at it from the outside.
Yeah, I know. I realize that.
I think that's.
But it was the pragmatic way. It was the logical.
And that's the thing. I've always been that. I think it's why my school was so disappointed I didn't take a science, because, like, I've always been interested in everything, and even at college, I'm like, we're in the art department. We're the cool kids. We're wearing Doc Martens before anyone else. We're like, what?
And they were just Dr. Martin. Yeah.
And we're like going to see the Smiths every weekend. We're the cool kids. And I'm creeping off to the library, because the first day I ever went into the library where I went to college I realized they had every John Steinbeck book, like all of them. And I was reading through them in order that he'd written them, trying to work out when he'd written it, when it'd been published. Should I read it in the order they're published or when they're written? And I was that person, and I read every Steinbeck book, in university in England, because I was so geeked out by that. Yeah. And so it's always, and I think we're working into a world where it's fine to love what you love, even though, my favorite sport is surfing.
That makes sense.
By a long way. And I'm like this girl from just outside London, England. I'm not in the age bracket. I'm not in the, but surfing, oh yeah. I mean, pipes on. Do you know this? Pipes on at the moment. Which everyone else means. There's a contest called Pipeline. That's one of the first contests of the new surfing season. And it's happening now, and it will be on in the background today while I'm working, because I need to know. And Kelly's surfing, so is in retirement. See, and I'm a geek about that.
This is phenomenal.
I don't know who Kelly is, and so
now we're all cheering for Kelly.
Kelly Slater, the best athlete America's ever had.
Oh, hands down.
Easily. She's 11 times surfing world champion, the youngest ever world champion, and now the oldest. Yeah.
All right, well, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, really. But I love that, and that will be on the background while I work. And it's that dichotomy of all who we are. Everyone has their weird thing they like.
Yeah.
And I think we live in a world where you get to like that thing, and you get to be that dichotomy, that weird mixture of, geek, I love to read about business, and I'm, a creative, and they're not meant to go together, but people are complex. So we can believe at least 3 opposing things at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think social media has made it like that soundbite. Mm-hmm. And we don't see that complexity of people unless we're with them, or we get to know them, or we get to ask questions like, what's the dream?
But I think that's what people are complex, but things are easier when you can put things in a box. And that's the dichotomy that we're living in all the time. And it's sort of, which one are you more willing to?
We just make weirdly shaped boxes.
Absolutely, it's really strange. It's just a really weird box. Yeah. That's not even a box; it's a circle. Yeah. But
a box is not a shape. You're acting like a box has to be a rectangle. A box is a container.
I thought a box was a square.
It doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
It's a container. A rectangle is a rectangle, so you might not fit them. But boxes can be any size and any shape.
Yeah. But we want to put people in these things because it's easier. It becomes logical.
We want categories. We want cheese A.
Yeah, like the logic. And so while I enjoy sort of going all over, but it's why I love whenever businesses have core values and encourage people to have values, because values, yes, they are great and they give you something to sort of lean into, but they also make everything easier. Because it's
once
very
you've
simple.
Decided your values as a person, as a business, as whatever, all your decisions are already made.
All decisions, absolutely. It's already made.
You make those decisions in the calm and the quiet, and then that's how you treat an angry customer, or a completely stranger on the street, or Facebook, or whatever it is. Once you make your value things, and I used to work with a lot of companies on their values, and I would not take the generic blah, blah, blah values. I'm creative, I'm this, okay. That's so generic. It's like I'd make them group all the words they could think of into okay, these all mean the same kind of thing. Which one of these, what's the exact word you're looking for? Yeah. Because that has then made all your decisions. One of my values is on my arm. It says audacious, which is a word you used as an insult earlier, I think.
I don't think so.
So audacious. Because, and I used to make sure, and I must go back to it, that every email I send is slightly cheeky.
Yeah.
If you're going to want to work with me, that's who I am. And so everything I do needs to be, and that makes me remember, like, yeah, I get to be a little bit brave, a little bit cheeky, because that's just who I am. And so it's like those things, and it's like those decisions have already been made, because your values and your business values don't have to be the same thing. You are not your business.
It's a beautiful thing for people to understand.
Yeah.
Like, they can be, two different things can exist. Now, they should probably be like,
Yeah, they shouldn't be like this. Yeah. They should interweave.
But they don't have to be.
They don't have to be. But if one of your business is honesty, then you better be honest at all times in every place. You've already decided how you will deal with this. And so I think those words are really important, and everyone should. Like, I work with a bank in town on their core values, and I swear all of them know their core values. If you walked into that bank today and asked anyone, they would tell you their values, because they use them for everything all the time, and they have fun with them. And we have a thing in parentheses under each value, and that changes depending on the season and everything. So it's a really fun way to know their values. And your core values aren't something you put on your website and then ignore. They should be how you do business. That's literally, I guess, it's that culture. And culture eats strategy for breakfast. Is that the quote? Culture is way more important than strategy. Strategy is how you do something. Culture is that underlying core of how you do everything. And so it's those, once you know that, and they can change, obviously, but once you know that, once you're representing yourself or your business, every decision is already made.
And it's such an easy, beautiful thing because it's already done. It's, well, should we take this client? Well, can you point?
Does it match?
Do you draw a line from the client to one of the 4 or 5 whatevers? If yes, then do it. If no, then don't. Like, it may be hard. It may, but you've already made that decision. Like, it's already been made. And
you're not making it when you're upset or angry 100%. Or frustrated or scared. You don't have to make it in that moment because you've already made it in your values.
Yeah.
I used to love doing, I need to do more values.
Yeah, more values. The values were always
so
good.
much fun.
My
core value.
during running summer camp, we had, certain things that this is who we are. And, it's never fun to fire someone, but I never fired someone for something. I fired them but you decided. They made the decision that they were not going to live by the thing that we said. And this was going to be the consequence.
And it's not even they made the decision. It wasn't their core value didn't match with your core value. And there's a thing with families when, like, every family does something different and your kids learn that as they go out into the world and they're like, and it's like, that's who we are. And that's such a strong thing for kids to learn. We make the decision because that's who we are as a family. And that is like the answer they're looking for in a lot of things. We do this because we are a unit and we do this. And those core values run through life. And I hate that we call them core values and that we have a system for bringing them out because it made them into a business exercise.
Yeah.
And I don't, as much as I do that, the dichotomy, as much as I do that and I try and do it differently, it's still like, it's that love, hate it. I don't like calling it that. I don't like having to act like they're a new thing, because they're just, it's a human thing and we give it this new name and then we go, okay, and now I can make an exercise out of this. And there's a dichotomy in my head. It's like, no, this is who you've always been. Those things shouldn't change. Now they can, or the words you use to describe them can change, or you might use a more specific word to really nail it down, or you might decide that, honesty is overrated and I'm going to lie all the time. It's okay.
But you'll have a company decides that they value, kindness and compassion over honesty.
Yeah.
Isn't bad. That just means that, hey, they may not be as transparent of a company as other ones who say, no, we will be transparent no matter what. Okay, well, so then if you're super transparent, then you are keeping all your employees knowing that, hey, we're about to shut down this department because it may not work, versus, hey, we value kindness and compassion. We may not tell you right away because we're working it out.
So I had to look at honesty as one of mine, so I use it as an example. And I decided years ago, integrity is more important to me, because I tell lies sometimes. So I once met a new client, and I met them, I think it was at a yogurt shop in town. And they said, let's meet at the yogurt shop because they're doing that 10% back to our non-profit that day. Okay. And so I got there early, because I try and be cool and late. And it's impossible. If I'm like even 2 minutes late, every traffic light will be green and I will get there early. It's embarrassing and I'm just not cool, but it's the way it is. If I think I'm going to be 2 minutes late, I will call, and then I'm 2 minutes early anyway. It's super embarrassing. Sometimes I'll sit in the car just to be that 2 minutes late. But I'd got there early, and I went in and ordered something, and the girl didn't mention it, so I said, "Is it this non-profits day?" And she said, "Oh no." I said, "You might want to go and ask your boss because they're coming in." And so she went off to ask her boss and whatever, and she shouted at me, "Yeah, it is." I said, "They're coming in. It will look good if you say that." So they walked in. And she said, "Good afternoon, 10% of profits going back to this technology today." They were thrilled. She looked good. And they turned to me and said, "Did she say the same to you?" And I said, "Yes." That's where integrity is different to honesty. Mm-hmm. They didn't. But in that situation, what was I going to gain by saying that? Yeah. I wanted to know, like, everyone was happy when, like, yes, you did. And they were like, "Oh, this is fantastic." Mm-hmm. That's the difference between integrity and honesty to me. Mm-hmm. And I have to make sure that if I'm going to do that, it's for pure integrity. Didn't make me look good, but could I make them both look good? And do you know that girl would have told everyone that day? She wasn't going to not mention that again. So to me, that was the difference. Mm-hmm. I told a lie. I said yes when the answer was no. Mm-hmm. But hopefully I did it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's why integrity is more important than honesty. If I said honesty, I'd have had to go, no, I had to remind her. Yeah. No. Nobody wins. And that's, maybe I'm a terrible liar, but to me, integrity was more important at that moment. Yeah. So that became abundance. It has to be good for me and you. Audacity and integrity. Mm. And I still run everything I do. I never mention them. I don't think they're on my website anymore. I don't talk about it unless it's in a business setting. Yeah. But those three things guide every decision. And then I've got like fun. Is it fun? But I don't think of that as a core value, but it's definitely the way I decide. It's the way that you're living your life. Yeah. It's going to be underlying everywhere. Well, normally we would have stopped 20 minutes ago. Because I've been like, this is weird. Surprise anyone. Why are we going on for so long? You're in charge of this bit. Well, sometimes I'm in charge, and then you take over sometimes, which is more than fine. We would like to open up. Does anybody want to ask a question? Yes. Okay, so first thing I did, I just said like attracts like, and I felt that was enough of an answer. But the truth is, if you move to a new country and sit in a coffee shop and you are completely yourself, people like you will find you. Now, you probably want to be more active than that, but find the people like you and the people that will rejoice with you. And sometimes you get it wrong a few times, but like attracts like. The more you do what you do, the more you'll meet other people. It's just like this energy that goes into the world. You walk into a room, say you walk into this room and there were already at least 150 people in it when you came in, right? See? Complete. I'm really good at lying. There were at least 7 people in when you came in. You decide where to sit. And like attracts like in that situation. You are going to sit next to someone who either looks friendly or unassuming or whatever it is that goes on in our head. That's how we decide. Like attracts like. It's an energy thing. And so that's how you find your people. To find your people, be 100% yourself. I'm looking at some of my people. So I think that where I would say something similar, but I guess, I don't know, I'm thinking about it differently because I think, to me, the key word is that you find your people. Like, you play an active role in that. It's versus it's left up to chance.
So if I want to find people who think like me, one way to do
go
that
to
is
the places that you
to the
go
places.
to. I guess that's what I mean.
Which
be yourself.
Absolutely what you're saying. Absolutely what you're saying. Like, you're still saying be yourself, but there's a strategy involved that to me is a little bit different. Like if I want to be selfless and spend time volunteering, and I want to find other people who are like that, then I will find them volunteering. I will find them in those spaces.
But volunteer at the thing that fills you up.
Absolutely.
Like, whether it's an art thing, you'll find the other people. And I guess that was very telling. I am very much a kind of, my tendency would be to sit in a room by myself and wonder why people haven't shown up to be my friend.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at the going out there and finding them. But even if it's just go to the coffee shop you love the most.
Yeah.
The people will be there.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think going to the meetings you want to go to, finding the things that you're interested in, follow those, your people will find you. See, that's how I put it, and that's very much how I live my life, and I'm sorry.
And I know there was a second part of the question, but I think that what becomes important, because what I worry about and what I spend time talking to, especially like whenever people are about to graduate from college and they're about to go get a job, it can become easy to 3 days a week, work's over, we go to happy hour and we go to da-da. We go to that, and it works over, and we go to happy hour, and da-da-da-da. And then 3 years of your life has gone by, and it just went by, versus if you want to volunteer more, then you should go. So you have to have a strategy, I guess, is my thought. Like,
I guess I don't think of it as a strategy. I think of it as my life.
I guess I really look at it as more intentionality. Like I want you to. We should find people who fill us up, and sometimes if we don't put some strategy or some intentionality behind it, we will end up getting a bunch of people who maybe don't, and if we're lucky, we find one or two.
I think it's that funnel. You want to be an entrepreneur, or you are an entrepreneur, so you come to a place like this. You come to one of the big meetings, say they're doing a course on marketing, and you come here and everyone's an entrepreneur. And then you listen to the questions they ask, and you listen to that, and it's really easy at the end of that to go up to someone and say, hey, I'd love to know more about what you do.
Yeah.
Can we go for coffee? Because you're in that situation. And so I think when I came here, I had to go to networking meetings and actually network. Can you imagine being a person there's nobody in the room? Like literally I would know nobody. And so I had to learn to network. And most of that, I presume that your networking is similar. I ask questions about you.
Yeah.
I don't tell you I already know what I do. Networking is to find other people, but you don't have to find 20 of them. You start with one.
Absolutely.
I always think you're in every room you're in, and I say this during probably every speech I do, there is one person in this room you are meant to meet. Mm-hmm. And that's all, and your job is to find them. Mm-hmm. And that's it. You don't have to have 50 business cards and give them oh look, that was great networking because I got rid of my stack of business cards. That's not, make one genuine connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it. And that leads to others, and that leads to others. And then, sometimes there's a shift and there's a change, but you will find the people. And I think the other question you asked was about husbands or partners. My husband is not like me, although I would say we're the same on the inside. Our values, our core is the same. Mm-hmm. We appear in the world in very different ways. Weirdly, I am much quieter than you think when you meet me or in this situation. Just look at Janae laughing. And my husband's way more sarcastic than when you first meet him. Yeah, is that accurate? I am more like, my closest friends understand that after this I want to sit in the back of the room and not be like, the person that all the attention's on. I don't hate this, but it's not why I do what I do. This is just a byproduct of it. Mm-hmm. And they understand, and they're very, very protective sometimes of me. And so that's lovely. They understand the introverted side of me too. And my husband's like that. He's like, I say, you meet him, he probably won't say much the first time you meet him. When you've got to him, when he knows that, he likes you, you'll see he's sarcastic and funny. But I also know couples where both of them are like entrepreneurs and they feed off each other, or where both of them are, so I don't think you need your opposite. I think there's a way we appear in the world, and then there's a way we are inside, and that bit matters with someone you live with and spend your life with. Those core like should be the same or as much similar. And then how you appear in the world can be very different or can be similar. But the way you attract that is to be yourself. The more you're completely yourself, the more the things that are meant for you will find you. You cannot miss what's meant for you. So it's not a case of, oh, I didn't meet that. You know, if it's exactly the right person for you, you'll meet them again and again and again. And things will come round and opportunities will come round because you can't miss what's made for you.
Yeah. I think about, I can't help but think about, you know, my own wife and our relationship in this conversation. And I wonder if it's like, it's almost like your weirdness has to attract one another. Because that's the thing. Like whenever I think about like what do I love, like
my husband's text me.
It's just our weirdness. Like it's the strange things that we have in common. It's how we are when when we're not around everyone else, and those idiosyncrasies and oddities. Those are the things that end up you know, because I knew, I mean, like talking earlier about like moments where you're just like, everything changes right there. I mean, I remember the moment with my wife whenever I was like, everything is about to change right now. Like in this moment, nothing else will be the same from now until eternity because of what's about to happen. And then it happened. And it was but yeah, and everything else, it was all the odd things. It was all the weird things, the things that you don't see on the
people that accept that dichotomy that is being human. It's the people that like love you when you're on stage in front of 3,000 people, or when you're covered in paint, or when you're doubting yourself and you can't go out into the world and you can't draw and you can't paint and nobody likes you and you're the worst. It's the people that love you in all of those situations and never say, look, you do this every time. You know you're going to be fine. You're doubting yourself. He never dismisses that. And there are days where I can't leave the house because I'm the worst person in the world, and you know I can't do any of this. I've been faking it my whole life, and that's being human. But the person that never calls you on that and says, "See, that was stupid thinking that," because he understands that's where I am at that moment. Yeah. And so for me, that matters. You know, and I married a sarcastic Cajun guy.
Yeah, there's some audacity there, I'm sure.
It happens.
Yeah. Okay, listen, we can continue for another hour.
No,
but at some point we have to wrap this thing up. People have jobs. They can't just watch us the whole time. So thank you so much. I mean, I love getting to talk to you. I mean, you know, when you find your reflection in the mirror, it's pretty awesome. And so I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for being
here. See, that's the thing. If we meet someone that like we literally were just like, oh my God, how do I not know you? How do I know? And that makes you feel good about yourself because you like someone that's like you. Yeah. I went away from the meeting the other day and I'll probably go away, a bit today, like smiling.
Now,
yeah, today was all right. But for someone to get my sarcasm immediately. And so we were meant to meet. It was just a question of when. Yeah. And so we're going to have to do that. Oh, we're going to be friends for a long time.
Yeah, now it's going to happen. It'll be fine.
Oh, and call me when you
It'll be fine. We'll figure it out.
Oh, God.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great.
This has been wonderful. We will not have a conversation next Tuesday, but then...
Because we've used all the time.
Because we've used all of our time for both days. But then we're going to talk to Nina Charles, who owns Nina's Creole food truck. And she was on the Food Network, and she's brilliant and creative, and she's incredible. So we'll talk to her on the 18th. And so
why are there not 100 people in this room?
You can try to get more people in the room, like try to fit. People like to watch us later, you know. I like to listen to things whenever I'm doing dishes, so I'm assuming that you're doing dishes right now. If that's you right now doing dishes.
So I'm going to put it doing dishes, not washing up. No. I call it washing up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, doing dishes.
Doing dishes.
When you're washing up.
When you're that's what I call it.
I'm so happy that we went all this way, and no one said bollocks, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but no one did, but now we have.
Bollocks are both good and bad.
Good.
So the dog's bollocks is really good.
Okay.
And then bollocks is really bad.
Okay.
So it depends on, like, with everything, especially in the English language, not the American, everything is intonation. Everything. So yeah, like, that's the dogs, as we'd say. It's like, that means something's really good. A load of bollocks, not so good. There's your English lesson for today.
Thank you for joining us. Next time we'll go over tea and why you should drink it. Okay. Thank you for being here.